Welcome to Honest Whispers Review. On this video, I'll be reviewing Eaglemoss Hero Collector, DC Comics Superhero Collection, Wonder Woman Mythologies Resin Figure number 1, Wonder Woman 80's Classic Version. This was released by Eaglemoss back in June 6, 2018. This figure is approximately 5 inches tall. And I'm going to go over 6 different categories to review this. First category is design, which basically covers the look, the concept, and the pose. And to start off with the pose, I really like it a lot. Classic Wonder Woman pose with their arms, bracelets crossed, ready to deflect bullets. And the concept, it basically goes over all of the Wonder Woman, I guess technically costumes or different versions that came out. On the back kind of shows what kind of types there are. This is number 1, so most likely it goes from 2 all the way to 6, which I'm not going to go ahead and waste time listing or naming off. But it is a nice concept, but the look for me, I think it looks a bit rough. Eaglemoss, they're basically known for like these small type of figures. One of the most famous things they're known for are like chess pieces. And for me, quality wise, it's pretty close to, I would say, HeroClix, but a little bit better than HeroClix. So for me, like the proportions on some of her body parts just doesn't seem accurate. For instance, her face just seems a bit too small. Or at least when you look from the top, it just looks too sharp and narrowed. And then of course, I mean, this could be sculpting issues as well, but then I'm just going to give it a hit on the design. Her legs overall looks okay, but then just seems like her knees tend to thin out. And I mean, it's nice to kind of show her muscle tone and everything, but then again, it's just the knees just seem to narrow down a little bit too much. Let me show you this angle as well. And then her hip just seems a little bit thick. So I mean, I don't mind the way her, I guess her butt kind of sticks out, but then right here on her lower stomach just seems to be a bit too rounded. And that's why for me, when I look at this, just kind of looks like she's wearing like a diaper or something. It just doesn't proportionately fit her upper body or her legs. And then her arms, especially the shoulders, just seems a bit too bulky. Try to get this focused here. There we go. I mean, it's not bad, but then when you compare to her chest, just doesn't seem proportionate to everything. So certain body parts just seem a bit too big, while other body parts just seems a bit too small. So that's why the design, I mean, I really can't give it a good score. I like the base, the DC base, and it's pretty much the same base as the other figures that comes out with. So that's why I'm gonna give the design score a 7 out of 10. Next category is sculpting. Pretty much covers the details, the quality of the sculpt, and the quality of the molding. And I usually start from the top. Hair is nicely sculpted, a lot of details, looks very realistic, has a nice flowing in the wind type of look to it. But as I mentioned, the face looks a bit rough. And then the arms just looks a bit rough too, especially the shoulders, because the closer you look at it, you realize, okay, this was assembled from different pieces. And on the back of the shoulder, it doesn't even fit her body. The right shoulder, if I could get that nicely zoomed, seems a bit small. You can kind of see that part, the flat part. Maybe it's glued on the wrong place, slightly off. But I don't see the armpits kind of sticking down. While right here, I don't know if the sculpting of the left shoulder is too big. So this is like sticking out a bit. Of course, you also need to check the feet, the way it's kind of glued. The one I actually pre-ordered that the comic shop had, this was like sticking out way above. So you could see that little peg, but it was like halfway up. It was just a sloppy assembly job. So this one, I was a bit picky. I took the best one out of the two that they had available after they returned the first one. So that one, you do have to be a bit picky. And the good thing is the packaging allows you to pretty much see the front and the sides. The stars, well, I did mention the face already, how it's a bit rough. Just looks too sharp, narrowed. So it really has a lot of a masculine traits to her face. So she does kind of look a bit masculine, just the way her face is so chiseled would be the right word. Hands are actually nice for what it is, and her costume, pretty nicely detailed overall. I like the symmetry of it. It can be a bit rough in some edges. The problem I have here is the abrased stars, or how the stars of her Star Spangled Panties are raised. I mean, a little bit raised is okay. I mean, it might kind of give you that the embroidered star look, but then this is just too much. Like, I'm trying to get to one of the sides, and it just sticks out too much, in my opinion, especially the front area. And as far as sculpting quality or the mold quality goes, it's really hard to say. I mean, it looks like her shoulders, or basically her arms, are molded separately. Possibly her hands as well. I can't really tell, just because the way they assembled it, it looks like they glued it together, and then rather than painting it separately before they assembled it, it looks like they painted it after they assembled it. So kind of, you can see, let's see her face right here. So you could tell there's some glue right there, the seam line between her chin and neck. And then it almost looks like her waist was glued together. Or at least I could see some kind of seam line right there as well. Now, certain areas a bit rough. You can see right here her legs. It looks like part of it's been like chiseled out, or it's very flat. Trying to get better lighting here. Of course, it's not gonna focus again. Let me see if I can get this angle here. You know what? I might have to lift this up a bit. So yeah, there it is. It looks very rough. It's like it's flat right here on this part. You can even see these little dots. So it looks like that might be where. Oh, here's another area. So it looks like somebody ran a chisel and then just ran through it right there, and it's all flattened. Now, of course, that's something you would have to really look closely at. And it's not like you're gonna sit there looking between her legs like that. So it's just right here, when you go through that turn, you can kind of see it off the shadows. Rest looks pretty much, it looks good. I mean, it could have been better. That's why I give the sculpting score an average 5 out of 10. This category is painting or colors, and basically it goes over the accuracy of the colors, quality of the paint, and quality of the paint application. And Eaglemoss, it just, I mean, you really have to be very picky as far as, because of course every figure tend to have a variation of the paint job, but usually it's bad. So you really have to try to look for the best looking ones. As I mentioned, this is one of the best looking ones that I picked out of the 3 that I saw, because the first one was pretty bad too. But let me try to give you a close-up of the tiara. There it is. So you can see how there is some yellow going over the hair, the borderline. So it looks like the tiara is kind of lopsided looking. As I mentioned, the face, the paint job doesn't help the face at all. And let me show you how it's supposed to look like. That looks so much better. I even try to compare it, give you a side by side. Of course, for the prototype, they would do like a perfect job on it. Costume, I see some yellow, either like crooked lines you can see on this side. See, this isn't too bad, but when you look at the breastplate and the belt, you could see how it doesn't really match up right there. It's almost like the further I get, the more you could see the mistake. Like this part of the W, you could see the crooked lines, so that really doesn't help. And of course the stars, I mean, you would think if you have raised stars it would help you paint it better, but that looks like, that doesn't even look like stars. Look at this one's even worse. That's almost a deformed square. So, and then you could see here the lasso. Now I like how they picked kind of a reflective or glossy gold for the lasso, so you could kind of see the difference between the belt, her breastplate, and the you know, the matte finish, which looks more yellow, but for the lasso it looks gold. Of course, right here in the back you could see her skin color and the blue, even the star. It's just weird how the star is, I guess that's the tip of the star that's sculpted, but then they decided to paint that part of the star as well, so that really looks awkward. Although the front looks a bit better. Boots, I wanted to say boots were like one of the best parts. It probably is, but you could even see how the lines are very squiggly. Doesn't really, you don't have that nice straight look. And of course, I know this is back into sculpting, but you can see those little holes, little dimples. Kind of gives it that rough, like burn scars or like Velveeta skin, kind of, or little dimples like on the boots. But anyway, going back to the paint, I did also want to show there is a red spot here. Looks like whoever was painting the red, or whoever painted this, splashed a little bit of red on the blue. And of course you could see more squiggly lines on her belt. Even her top, it's bleeding onto her skin. Or the skin color is bleeding on to the top. And it's hard to tell from this lighting, but then the skin tone color, everything pretty much matches, except for her left shoulder. It just seems like her left shoulder ended up with the tan. Let me see if I could kind of... Yeah, it's not really... It's really hard to tell, but maybe if I could do this, you could see kind of the brightness of her skin, but then when I turn here, it just looks slightly darker. So the painting, or the colors, I give it a slightly below average 4 out of 10. And of course, when you look at the prototype, it's like near perfect paint job. Look how straight those lines are on her boots. And it looks like they used child labor or something to paint the rest. Alright, so next category is packaging. And you know what? It's kind of off here. So let me put this on the top so I can kind of spin it. Well, packaging, it's your classic blister card packaging or bubble card packaging. I like it a lot, especially because you can see the figure when it's inside the card or the bubble. And then it does come with the little comic book, which really isn't a comic book. It's just like some pictures and a few details about her origin. Something you could kind of pretty much see anywhere. And the back, as shown, you get the nice example. And then, of course, the other figures that's in the collection or in the series. And then company details. It's nice quality. You can see kind of, here, let me see if I could show you. So it does come with a little card, very like heavy duty, so it's pretty stiff, keeps everything in usually good condition, so it doesn't tend to bend or fold easy. And then the rest is all plastic in the front, so it kind of protects the little comic as well. So therefore, I mean, you really can't go wrong with it. I don't see how I could improve it either. So that's why, at least the packaging, I give it a perfect 10 out of 10. Next category is value. Value basically is original cost, retail price versus quality, aftermarket price versus retail price, or aftermarket price versus quality. Now, funny thing is, I actually have the price tag still. This, when it first came out, retail price is $20. Pretty much sold out in any store. You might be able to find it maybe in a few web stores. The one place I checked was eBay. The lowest I've seen is $24.99, which is free shipping. And I'm not sure, I guess it will probably be tax included if you're in the same state. And then the next lowest, pretty much the only one, there's only two listed, so it does tell me that it is kind of rare, was $17.99 with $19.05 shipping. So basically $37, which is kind of a huge difference between the two. Unfortunately, you can't see what kind of condition they are, at least on the first one. So you might end up with one. Usually when I see something like that, when the seller uses stock pictures, it's kind of sketchy. It usually means maybe like really bad paint job or bad assembly. So I would just say beware. But to my surprise, this thing does actually have some aftermarket value. It's only been a little over a year, and already you could pretty much I mean, you wouldn't be able to find it for the original retail price or anything cheaper. And in my opinion, this is probably the best one out of the entire series. So therefore, I give the value score a 7 out of 10. Final category is overall, which pretty much accumulates to 5 prior categories: design, sculpting, colors, packaging, and value. And overall, I do like this. It is part of my personal collection, although I don't have much sentimental value or any kind of emotional attachment to it due to the way it kind of looks overall. I think it could have looked a lot better. Although Definitely for a die-hard Wonder Woman fan, probably worth having to just complete their collection. Or if they're collecting the entire Mythologies figures, definitely a must. Design's not bad. Sculpting could have been better. Painting, I mean, this is one of the best ones, and you can see so many flaws. So you really have to be careful. Otherwise, you'll see a lot more issues, whether it be stars being more off, or not just squiggly lines, but a lot of bleeding, or even paint. You might get like white spots on the wrong places or something. So it's unfortunate how the protection quality or level was so low for this. But there is some value, and you know, the packaging is nice. So this is something I ended up saving, the packaging, not just for the review, but I figured, you know what, I could probably put this in the back and make it a nice kind of a display case for itself. So that's why overall I give it a 5 out of 10. So to recap, design 7 out of 10. Sculpting 5 out of 10. Colors 4 out of 10. Packaging 10 out of 10. Value 7 out of 10. And overall 5 out of 10. Thank you for watching. Until next time, continue reading the King James Version Bible and eat your vitamin C's daily.